Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Gates channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit like for more daily drama updates and spoilers. Your support truly means a lot and helps our channel grow every day. Leslie has spent so much time stirring the pot, pushing buttons, and quietly setting other people's lives into motion that it almost feels inevitable that the past would eventually turn around and demand something from her. But next week on Beyond the Gates, the woman who is usually the instigator will find herself standing on the other side of the storm, forced to confront memories and choices she has tried desperately to hold on to. At the same time, Chelsea will find herself haunted by unresolved trauma, raising questions about what happened in her past and whether something buried is finally ready to come back into the light. Meanwhile, Vernon becomes increasingly suspicious of Bill and wants to know exactly what this man intends to do with Danny. As tensions rise across Fairmont, Crest, and beyond, Andre will also find himself pulled back toward the mistakes of his past, while relationships, rivalries, and long-hidden emotions begin colliding in ways nobody seems prepared for. The week ahead promises confrontations, uncomfortable revelations, and emotional turning points that could change several lives at once. Monday, August 17th, opens episode 348 with Andre being pulled down by the weight of his past, suggesting that whatever he has tried to leave behind is not finished with him yet. The more he attempts to move forward, the more difficult it becomes to escape the consequences of earlier choices, and that pressure is likely to follow him throughout the week. Elsewhere, tensions begin mounting between Thomas and Naomi, creating another emotional fault line that could erupt at any moment. Chelsea and Kat find themselves pairing fashion with controversy, proving once again that glamour and trouble can exist side by side in their world. But perhaps the most important confrontation comes when Vernon turns his attention toward Bill and directly questions his intentions with Danny. Vernon clearly does not intend to stand by quietly while Bill moves closer to someone he cares about, and whatever answer Bill gives may only create more questions. By Tuesday, August 18th, episode 349 brings even more danger and emotional friction as Bill flirts with disaster, seemingly edging closer to consequences he may not be able to control. Haley and Ashley clash, bringing two strong personalities into direct conflict and ensuring that whatever tension has been building between them can no longer remain beneath the surface. Meanwhile, Eva's words instigate Leslie, and that confrontation could strike a particularly sensitive nerve because Leslie is already being pushed toward an uncomfortable reckoning with herself. Carlton delivers Ted a major update, while Nicole does the same with Vanessa, meaning important information is moving rapidly through several corners of the community. Shanice, meanwhile, is faced with an unanticipated request, while Smitty disappoints Martin, and that disappointment could carry consequences far beyond a simple personal disagreement, especially if Smitty's actions threaten Martin's political ambitions. Wednesday, August 19th, shifts the energy once again as Nicole's plan saves the night for Noah, giving the day a brief moment of relief amid all the surrounding chaos. Yet that sense of calm does not last long because Danny and Andre decide to color outside the lines, suggesting that the two may be willing to take risks that could bring unexpected complications. At the same time, Jacob enlists Grayson and Ashley to help him surprise Naomi, creating a potentially warmer and more hopeful moment in the middle of a week filled with conflict. But even this lighter development is interrupted when Vernon's plans for Anita are disrupted, forcing him to adjust just when he thought he knew how things were going to unfold. Across these storylines, the characters continue moving toward one another like pieces of a puzzle, and every decision seems capable of triggering another chain reaction. Then Thursday, August 20th, brings the emotional heart of the week as Leslie is finally forced to reckon with her past if she wants any real chance at moving forward with her future. For someone who has held so tightly to her history with Ted, this could become one of the most painful realizations she has ever faced. Leslie has convinced herself that because Ted is no longer with Nicole, there is still a path back to the life she once imagined for them, complete with a reunion and the possibility of becoming a family with Ava for the first time ever. But reality has been moving in another direction, and the dream Leslie has been clinging to may no longer exist outside her own mind. Ted is now with Shanice, Eva is with Isaiah, and Eva does not need her parents to reunite in order to have a happy and fulfilling life, meaning Leslie may finally have to understand that holding on to the past is preventing everyone from finding peace in the present. That realization may be painful, but it could also become the beginning of something healthier for Leslie. Moving on from Ted would mean accepting that the future she imagined is not the future she is going to receive. And while that truth may initially feel like a devastating loss, it could ultimately open the door to genuine happiness for her and everyone around her. Her journey has always been complicated by the way she grips the past, especially her belief that she and Ted somehow still belong together simply because their history remains unfinished in her mind. Now, with Ted committed elsewhere and Eva building a life of her own, Leslie may have no choice but to release the fantasy and discover who she is without it. Meanwhile, Bill and Ted bond over their shared history, creating another fascinating layer to the week as their connection raises questions about what they know about one another and how that history might influence the present. Nicole also experiences an unexpected reaction that causes her to examine herself in front of Kial, while Ava and Isaiah reveal some hard truths to each other, forcing their relationship to confront realities that may have been easier to avoid. By Friday, August 21st, episode 352 takes Chelsea into much darker emotional territory as unresolved trauma comes back to haunt her while her father reaches his breaking point. The wording alone suggests that something from Chelsea's past may be far more significant than viewers have realized, and this could finally reveal another layer to the woman behind the polished image and fashion success. For someone known for her strength and creativity, being confronted by trauma she has never fully resolved could leave Chelsea emotionally exposed in a way we have rarely seen. And at the same time, her father is reaching his limit, meaning the pressure surrounding Chelsea may not remain confined to her own personal struggle. Could we finally learn something new about our favorite handbag designer, something that changes how we understand the person she has become? As the emotional walls begin to crack, Chelsea may discover that the past she tried to survive is still influencing her present. And just when the week could hardly become more complicated, Danny locks horns with Haley, bringing another confrontation into the spotlight. Randy follows Heather, suggesting that someone is watching closely and that secrets may be closer to being exposed than anyone realizes. Madison receives conflicting information from two adversaries, leaving her caught between competing versions of the truth and unsure which side she can trust. Then Andre issues a threat, adding an even more dangerous edge to a storyline that has already been heavily shaped by his troubled past. Each of these developments pushes the characters closer to moments of consequence where hidden motives and unresolved feelings can no longer stay hidden. The biggest question surrounding Leslie is whether this week finally gives her the wake-up call she has needed for so long. She has been clutching her history with Ted as though letting it go would mean admitting that the dream was never going to become reality, and she has interpreted his separation from Nicole as an opportunity for them to reunite. In Leslie's mind, she and Ted could finally come together and create the family she always wanted with Eva, but the circumstances around them have changed too much for that dream to remain realistic. Ted has moved forward with Shanice. Ava has found her own relationship with Isaiah, and there is no longer a reason for Eva to believe that her parents need to be together. If Leslie can finally accept that truth, moving forward may not be the tragedy she fears, but the freedom she desperately needs. At the same time, Chelsea's storyline could become one of the week's biggest surprises as her unresolved trauma begins demanding attention. The fact that her father reaches his breaking point alongside her emotional struggle suggests that whatever is coming may affect more than just Chelsea herself. There may be pieces of her history that viewers have never been given the full picture of, and those missing pieces could finally begin surfacing. While Leslie struggles to release a past she refuses to let go of, Chelsea may be struggling with a past she wishes she could forget, creating an intriguing contrast between two women being pulled backward by memories for completely different reasons. One is holding on to what she desperately wants to preserve, while the other may be trying to escape what she desperately wants to leave behind. And then there is Bill, whose intentions with Danny continue to attract attention from everyone around him. Vernon clearly does not trust the situation, and his confrontation with Bill suggests that he intends to get answers rather than simply watch from the sidelines. Bill flirting with disaster only makes the situation more suspicious, particularly as his connection with Danny becomes increasingly complicated. Danny will also have another confrontation with Haley, ensuring that whatever tension exists between them remains unresolved and dangerous. With Bill's motives under scrutiny, Vernon watching closely, and Danny already facing conflict from multiple directions, it may only be a matter of time before the truth behind Bill's intentions becomes impossible to hide. Beyond those central stories, next week is packed with confrontations that could reshape several relationships. Haley and Ashley will clash, Danny and Haley will collide again, and Eva and Isaiah will be forced to work through difficult complications in their relationship. Smitty's disappointment of Martin could also prove especially damaging if his actions interfere with Martin's re-election campaign, adding political stakes to what might otherwise appear to be a personal problem. Andre continues being dragged toward the consequences of his past while simultaneously becoming more dangerous in the present, culminating in the threat he issues on Friday. With every storyline moving toward confrontation, the week feels less like a series of isolated events and more like a storm gathering across Fairmont Crest. Ultimately, the August 17th, 21 episodes of Beyond the Gates appear to center on one powerful idea. The past may shape who these characters are, but sooner or later, they have to decide whether they will remain trapped inside it. Leslie must finally confront the reality that her dream of returning to Ted may never happen, while Chelsea is forced to face trauma that she has never truly resolved. Vernon wants answers about Bill and Danny. Andre is pulled back toward his own troubled history, and relationships across the canvas continue to fracture under the pressure of secrets, expectations, and unfinished business. Some characters may find freedom by letting go, while others may discover that the things they tried to bury are still alive and waiting beneath the surface. And as these stories collide, the emotional consequences could be far greater than anyone expects, leaving viewers wondering who will finally break, who will finally move on, and who will be pulled even deeper into the past they thought they had escaped. As the week continues to unfold, the emotional pressure surrounding these characters only becomes more intense because every unresolved issue seems to be leading toward a moment when someone will finally have to make a choice. Leslie may have spent years believing that her connection with Ted was simply waiting for the right opportunity to return, but the reality around her is becoming impossible to ignore. Ted has built a new relationship with Shanice, while Eva has established a life of her own with Isaiah, and neither of those realities leaves much room for Leslie's old dream to survive. What makes her situation so painful is that she is not simply losing a man she loves, she is being forced to let go of an entire future she once believed was guaranteed. That kind of loss can be harder than any ordinary breakup because it means mourning something that never fully existed. Yet, if Leslie can finally stop looking backward, she may discover that the future waiting for her is not empty at all, but simply different from the one she imagined. Her confrontation with the past could also force Leslie to recognize how much her actions have affected the people around her. She has often been the person who knows exactly where to push, which secret to expose, and which emotional wound to touch when she wants to get a reaction. But this time, she cannot manipulate the situation into giving her the ending she wants because the people involved have already begun making choices of their own. Ted is moving forward. Eva is no longer waiting for her parents to reunite, and Leslie's insistence on keeping the old dream alive may eventually leave her more isolated than she ever expected. Eva's relationship with Isaiah is especially important because it demonstrates that the younger generation is capable of building happiness without being trapped by the history of their parents. For Leslie, watching that happen may hurt, but it could also be the clearest sign that she needs to stop trying to rewrite yesterday. Sometimes the hardest form of growth is accepting that the chapter you wanted to reopen has already ended. Meanwhile, Chelsea's storyline carries an entirely different kind of emotional weight because she is not willingly holding on to her past. Instead, the past appears to be holding on to her. When unresolved trauma resurfaces, the polished image she presents to the world may begin to crack, revealing vulnerabilities she has worked hard to keep hidden. Her career, her confidence, and her ability to create beautiful things may have helped her construct a life that feels controlled, but trauma has a way of returning when a person least expects it. The fact that her father reaches his breaking point at the same time suggests that whatever Chelsea is confronting could have consequences throughout her family. There may be painful memories, unanswered questions, or experiences that she has never fully discussed, and viewers could finally begin to understand why certain parts of Chelsea's personality have always remained guarded. What begins as an emotional struggle could therefore become a major revelation about the woman everyone thought they already knew. The tension around Bill and Danny is also becoming impossible to ignore, especially with Vernon openly questioning what Bill really wants. Vernon's concern does not seem casual, and his decision to confront Bill suggests that he senses something beneath the surface that other people may not yet see. Bill has already been described as flirting with disaster, and that warning becomes even more significant when his intentions toward Danny remain unclear. The more attention Bill receives, the more suspicious his behavior becomes, particularly when Danny is already caught in a complicated web of relationships and rivalries. Vernon may believe he is protecting Danny, but his involvement could also force Bill to reveal more than he intended. If Bill truly has an agenda, then being challenged directly may push him into making a mistake. Danny, meanwhile, has no shortage of problems of her own, especially with Haley continuing to stand in her path. Their conflict refuses to disappear, and every new confrontation seems to carry the possibility of escalating into something much more serious. Danny and Andre also find themselves coloring outside the lines, suggesting that whatever choices they make could create consequences that neither of them has fully considered. Andre is already being pulled down by his past, so getting involved in risky decisions in the present could make his situation even more dangerous. There is a sense that Andre is approaching a point where he cannot continue separating the man he wants to be from the person his past has made him. His eventual threat only reinforces that feeling because once someone begins using threats to control a situation, the possibility of crossing a line becomes very real. Elsewhere, Haley's clash with Ashley adds another layer of confrontation to an already volatile week. Neither woman is likely to back down easily, meaning whatever sparks their conflict could quickly become something far more personal. At the same time, Ava and Isaiah are forced to confront hard truths about their relationship, and this could test whether their connection is strong enough to survive the realities they have been avoiding. Their willingness to speak honestly with each other may hurt in the moment, but honesty could also prevent deeper resentment from taking root. In contrast, Smitty's disappointment of Martin could leave lasting damage if it affects Martin's re-election campaign. Political pressure can transform a personal mistake into a much larger crisis, and Martin may soon discover that loyalty is far more fragile when an election is on the line. Nicole's storyline also continues to create ripples across the canvas. Her plan saves the night for Noah, demonstrating that even amid the surrounding chaos, Nicole remains capable of stepping in when someone needs her. Yet her unexpected reaction in front of Kyle forces her to examine herself, suggesting that helping others does not mean she has completely resolved her own emotional struggles. Nicole may be more self-aware than some of the people around her, but even she can be caught off guard when an emotional response reveals something she would rather not acknowledge. Her conversation and update with Vanessa also indicate that information is moving between characters quickly, and whenever secrets begin traveling through Fairmont Crest, it is only a matter of time before someone receives information they were never supposed to hear. Carlton and Ted's major update adds another intriguing element to the week, particularly because Ted is already standing at the center of Leslie's unresolved feelings. Whatever Carlton shares could influence Ted's perspective or introduce information that changes the balance of his relationships. Shanice, meanwhile, faces an unexpected request, potentially placing her in a situation she never anticipated when she became involved with Ted. That development could become especially important because Leslie's struggle to accept Ted and Shanice's relationship may not be the only source of pressure surrounding them. If Shanice is forced to make an unexpected decision while Leslie is simultaneously confronting her past, the emotional timing could create even more tension between the characters. Then there is Vernon, whose plans for Anita are interrupted, forcing another unexpected change of direction. Vernon already has his attention divided between his own plans and his concerns about Bill and Danny, so another disruption could test how much control he actually has over the situation. His confrontation with Bill may be only the beginning, especially if Vernon refuses to accept vague answers or suspicious behavior. When someone becomes convinced that another person is hiding something, every small detail starts looking like evidence. That could make Vernon increasingly determined to uncover the truth, even if the truth creates problems for everyone involved. The week also carries a strong theme of people discovering that their carefully constructed realities are not as stable as they believed. Leslie thought her past with Ted could become her future, only to find that Ted and Eva have already moved forward. Chelsea may have believed she had successfully built a life beyond her trauma, only to discover that buried pain does not disappear simply because time passes. Andre may have hoped his past could remain behind him, but it continues dragging him back into dangerous territory. And Bill may believe he can pursue whatever he wants with Danny without explaining himself, but Vernon is already demanding answers. One by one, the characters are being confronted by the consequences of what they have avoided. Even the seemingly smaller developments carry the potential to become major turning points. Madison receives conflicting information from two adversaries, leaving her with the difficult task of determining which version of events she can trust. Randy tails Heather, suggesting that surveillance and suspicion are becoming part of the larger atmosphere of secrecy. Smitty disappoints Martin at a time when Martin can least afford another complication, while Shanice receives a request she never anticipated. These details may appear separate at first, but in a story like this, they can become the threads that eventually pull several characters into the same crisis. Nobody operates in isolation for long, and one person's decision can quickly become another person's problem. By the end of the week, the biggest emotional question may not be who wins a confrontation, but who finally finds the courage to face the truth. Leslie may have to accept that Ted is no longer waiting for her, and that accepting this does not mean her life is over. Chelsea may have to confront the trauma that has followed her quietly for far too long, while her father reaches a point where he can no longer contain his own emotions. Vernon may discover whether his suspicions about Bill are justified, and Danny may find herself caught in an increasingly dangerous conflict between people who all seem to want something from her. Andre, meanwhile, may take another step toward a confrontation with the consequences of his past, especially after issuing a threat that could have serious repercussions. And that is what makes the coming episode so compelling. Nobody seems capable of simply walking away from the past anymore. Leslie must release a dream. Chelsea must face a wound. Andre must answer for old choices, and Bill must confront the suspicion surrounding his intentions. Around them, relationships are being tested, alliances are shifting, and secrets are moving closer to the surface. The more these characters try to protect the lives they have built, the more the past threatens to tear those lives apart. What begins as personal conflict could soon become something much larger, because when enough secrets collide at once, there is no telling who will be caught in the fallout. For Beyond the Gates, the next chapter is not simply about what happened before, it is about what happens when the past finally demands to be answered.